Now I'm going to talk about what we call the new face of hunger. A number of new emerging issues which we are contending with today that make the entire approach, oftentimes, for all of us involved in international development and humanitarian operations, gives us pause for thought and new issues that we need to be considered dealing with. I mentioned the perfect storm now a few times. One, the perfect storm is all a combination of these various factors playing together very much to the detriment of the most vulnerable, of the bottom billion that we've been talking about. Rising food prices around the world. And again, the issue there that the poorest are always going to be spending more for access to food than most of us in the first world. The idea that the population, of course, is also increasing. By 2050, we will have 9 billion people in the world. Today, we have a little over 6. And right now, we have enough food to feed everyone. We won't have enough food by 2050 to feed that same population. And then finally, we have a drain on those food stocks, which we do have, and that we're now using food for fuel with biofuels. We're using food, essentially, to fuel our SUV habit. So in the perfect storm, we have global food prices soaring, the world consuming much more than it produces now, that is, in terms of human consumption, because of the fact that we have these competing demands that I mentioned. Global grain stocks are the lowest now than they have ever been for 30 years. We have more intense and more frequent weather disasters. And overall, the World Bank is telling us that 100 million people are at risk and will be pushed further into deeper poverty, 100 million more beyond the numbers that we're dealing with now. So higher prices mean basically less food available for the hungry. World cereal prices have increased 70% since April 2010. Half of our contributions for WFP are in cash, as we mentioned earlier, but our purchasing power then is seriously eroded when prices go up to this degree. And we have this graph here that I've shown before, this idea of income. The higher your income, the less of that income you will be spending on food, right? And the less income that you've got, the more that you're spending on food. Here's a map showing household spending in the world in 2007, the percentage spent on fuel, food, and drink, less than 20%. You can see that's primarily the first world. But as you get to the poorer countries where the bottom billion live, where the hungry poor are eking out in existence, they're spending a higher and higher percentage of their income, the minimal income which they have, on food. So they're hugely affected by any increases the way we've been seeing in food prices. So over 50% is what people are spending in the countries in the red category.